Thank you. G'day, everybody. Now, you all know that saying, a hard act to follow, right? That is my lived reality right at the moment. Just like a little bit of sympathy for being the last speaker following that unbelievable group of people. What an incredible honour it is to stand here with that group and to be a Kiwi back home talking to young Kiwis about, the life journey that I have lived. I'm going to start by, I want to tell you my story as a Kiwi because I think it's a really uniquely Kiwi story, and tell you how I came to be sitting on a rooftop in Kathmandu with a couple of kids, Paladin and Dinesh, that we pulled out of the child trafficking trade when they were 3. And I want to tell you a story that's about mistakes and lessons that I've learned. So I've called this presentation Lessons from the Road. And I think many of the lessons that I've learned and the mistakes I've made will resonate with some of the other speakers and some of the things that they've told us. It's been a journey of joy, it's been a journey of success, but it's also been a journey of tears. And the first lesson, I guess, is very much a Kiwi lesson. It's about gratitude. I've often think that, life is sort of like a landscape painting that you're born into, and the vast majority of the painting is already painted in. So if you think about the painting that Ben just told you about of his life, my painting was completely different to that. I was born in New Zealand, a lucky Kiwi of amazing people, values-driven people who loved me desperately and told me that it was okay to fail. I was born in a country where I never, ever had to think about whether or not I was going to get food that day, or whether or not there was going to be shelter for me, or whether I was going to get an education. My painting was one that was just a painting of opportunity. And from the earliest stage of my life, I remember being incredibly grateful for that. And gratitude for me has underpinned everything I've done in my life. And through some of the really, really tough times in my life, it has sustained me, because every day I recognise how unbelievably lucky I am as a girl and now a woman. The second really key learning for me that has underpinned everything is about respect. Now, I spent 5 years as a commercial cleaner. I could tell you I walked into this room and I knew whether the cleaners had done a great job. I cleaned my way through university. And when you're a cleaner in New Zealand, what does that mean? That means you're working with astonishing people, Samoans, Tongans, Maori people, women who are putting their kids through school, people who speak 5 languages and can't get any other job. So when I was cleaning, I was a pretty good cleaner, and I had a key job, which means you get the key to the building. So this is in Wellington. I was studying arts and law at Vic, and I had my key. I was cleaning the offices of New Zealand's largest company at that stage, their executive offices. And so if you can just picture me back in the day, I had long hair down to here, a big pink streak, had this fabulous big smock, feather duster and Walkman. And I'm so old that in those days you used to be able to smoke in offices. Really? And so this particular executive office of this really big company, the guy who ran it, not only did he smoke in his office, I kid you not, he stubbed his cigarette butts out on his carpet. This man was really, really a pig. And so the way that I dealt with that was every night I'd go in there and I'd go straight to his office and I'd shut the door, and then I cleaned the whole office because it was so offensive. So I cleaned the whole office, and then I'd go back and do his room last. Anyway, here's one night, and there I am cleaning away with my music on, and all of a sudden there's a tap on my shoulder. And I turn around, and lo and behold, it's the pig. And he says to me, "You, girl, you, come here." Because that's how some people talk to cleaners. And so I laughed, and I followed him along. And he took me into the executive male bathroom. We got into the executive toilets, and he pointed at the urinal. And he said to me, "Girl, you always miss that." And then he turned on his heel, and he walked out. And I swear it, that man would not have remembered me if he had crossed me in the street 2 minutes later. But I never forgot him. So now roll forward about 6 years, and I'm in Hong Kong, I'm a lawyer, and I'm engaged by a big syndicate of international banks to come back to New Zealand to renegotiate all the global debt of the very same company. The first meeting I walk into is the board of directors. I'm no longer the girl that missed the spot in the urinal. Now I'm the girl that's in charge of billions of dollars of their money. I walk into the board of directors and they all rise as one to greet me. And I kid you not, the first one to put out his hand, Mr. Urinal. Respect everybody, not only because it's the right way to live and it's the right set of values, but also because you never, ever know where people are going to end up. The next thing, bravery. I want to talk a wee bit about bravery, and first to say that bravery to me is not about being fearless. I'm afraid of a whole lot of things. I have been my whole life. Bravery for me is about feeling a lot of fear and then pushing yourself through it and figuring out what risks it's okay to take. So I really learned first about risk-taking and bravery as a young skydiver. I was a passionate, obsessive skydiver. I did nearly 1,000 skydives. Manawatu skydivers was where I started. And I spent a lot of time figuring out that actually it's okay to take a risk and be in a counterculture that's about taking risk. And jumping taught me a huge amount about how to think about risk and how to be courageous, and it's held through my whole life. So just 6 weeks ago, I was up in Nepal as soon as the earthquake struck, because we have a huge number of people that work with us up there, a huge number of people we love. And I was reflecting again on that journey of courage about the people that I work with. And this is a picture of Menaka Rai, who's one of our nurses. Menaka, every single member of our staff up there, we have 50 astonishing Nepali staff. Not one of them have a home post the earthquake. I took my swag and slept out on the streets with our staff and a lot of the kids that we have custody of. Menaka had lost her home. She has a 7-year-old child. She was sleeping in what they're now calling the greenhouse, which is a tent. And on the third day after the earthquake, she was doing that, walking through rubble when the ground was still shaking to find people to treat in our medical camps. Courage has underpinned her life, and it underpins the life of so many people that have inspired me in my journey. The other really key thing for me is about standing up for what's right. It's quite interesting when I show this slide to different audiences. When I show that slide to the private sector, they're alarmed in general. I learnt about standing up for what was right in New Zealand during my teens and early 20s, through the feminist movement, through the peace movement, and then on the streets of New Zealand during the Springbok tour, which some of you here will remember, when actually it was a really big division in New Zealand society. And many of us went out on the streets twice a week for 90 days while the Springboks were here to stand up and celebrate diversity and to say that we would not support anything that came in and around apartheid. And people threw bottles at us from the streets. And actually it's a bit of a miracle that nobody was killed. But for me it was a really profound period in my life of recognising that no matter how hard it was, I had to find my voice and my truth about what really I thought was right. And once you find that voice and you stand up for what you believe in, everything unfolds from there. It's really unbelievably empowering. So here I was, a little lefty social activist, standing up for what was right with my placards, causing trouble and being arrested and dragged off streets. And then I went to Australia after I'd finished my arts degree to jump in the Australian parachute champs. And I broke my knee. And that meant that I couldn't finish my law degree in New Zealand. I had to finish it in Australia. So for the first time in my life, I rocked into a university, Melbourne University, and it was full of kids with money. First time in my life that I had encountered money. And I had this horrifying moment where I asked somebody in the CAF why they were studying law, and they looked at me like I was an alien and said, well, of course I'm studying law because you can make $6,000 a day as a QC. And I went, wow, man, that's not my reality. I was cleaning the house of a partner of a big law firm at the time, and so that night when I was cleaning his house and he came home, I said to him, what's the most right-wing law firm in the country? And he said, what do you mean? I said, I mean the most business-friendly law firm in the country. And then he gave me a real gift, because he said, it's a firm called Allen and Hemsley, but you would never get in there. Every time somebody said that to me in my life, it's been a gift. There began my journey into trying to understand power and money. So I cut my hair off and offended my feminist sisterhood by putting on high heels and business suits, and I went to work in mergers and acquisitions, corporate finance, project finance, and I began this amazingly lucky journey into the other side. And it was a journey that took me through Hong Kong, took me into working for great, great law firms, and ultimately it took me to the place of running a publicly traded bank and chairing a stock exchange. And the greatest sort of step away from my original roots, my social justice roots, was when I began to sign the money in Bermuda. I signed the Queen's neck on the $5 note in Bermuda because I sat on the board of the Bermuda regulator. So I had an amazingly lucky career in business and in banking and in thinking about power and money. And everything came together for me at that point, and I decided to form, see the sign, the ISIS group? That was us. We had the most interesting branding problem in the world last year. So we're now the ADARA group, the one sitting in the middle, and very, very glad our name is no longer synonymous with terrorism. So I set ADARA up 17 years ago as a way to try to find a bridge between all these parts of my life, and in a very small way to model that you actually could think really outside of the box and think differently. So ADARA is very simple. It's simply a corporate finance business that's set up for the sole purpose of generating revenue to fund work with women and children in extreme poverty in remote areas, projects that we also run. You would think that's not so confusing, but people found the concept of an investment bank for purpose rather than profit to be pretty confusing. And in the old days, most people thought I must be a drug dealer, a money launderer, or just a bullshitter. However, the good news is, through this extraordinary journey of ups and downs and joy and tears, we've touched the lives now of millions of people. We touch the lives of about 50,000 people a year, and I have a team of 200 brilliant development specialists on my staff, all Nepalis and Ugandans in Nepal and Uganda, big research teams out of the States and clinical practice teams out of the States. And the business is the underpinner of all that running out of Sydney, which is truly wonderful. In setting up ADARA, I wanted to bust a few misconceptions as I saw them. One was that to be a philanthropist, you had to be rich, you had to be old, you probably were going to be white, and the chances were you were going to be a man. I wanted to prove that you could be a philanthropist all the way through. The other thing I really wanted to show was that business is nothing more than a construct. It's not about return to shareholders. You can use it for anything you like. And this is how I've used my business. And it's taught me that thinking outside of the box is just amazingly powerful. I'm a huge Lady Gaga fan. One of the reasons I love her is because of what she says to her little monsters, kids who are bullied. And the lesson that I've learned in 52 amazing, joyous years, and this has probably been the hardest one, is be 100% yourself. Stand up and shine while you hold humility. Stand up and shine and find your own greatness no matter what other people tell you to do. No matter whether people are threatened by what you're trying to do. No matter whether people are trying to protect you from what they're worried about if you are who you are. Stand up and be yourself. Because in the end, if you want to be great, it's the only way to be great, is to be 100% yourself. And believe in your dreams. So for me, my dream was about finding a way to bridge the world of Wall Street and the world of people in poverty. And what that's meant, for instance, we're now amongst the world's foremost specialists in neonatal intensive care in remote settings. So the NICU that we work through and run in Uganda, we take 1,200 babies a year through that NICU, 1,200 babies who come from mums with HIV, who are jaundiced, who are preemie, and who in the old days had absolutely no chance of living. We also take 7,000 mothers through our maternity unit. When I started that work, people said to me, you never try to do tertiary medical care in a low-resource remote setting. The best you will ever do is get a vaccination into a baby's arm. Don't even try. And now our centre in Chiwoka Hospital in Nakaseki in Uganda is a training centre for the world around neonatal ICU. The other thing, of course, that you heard about that we do is the rescue of kids from child traffickers. People ask me if I have kids, and I say yes. Well, I have thousands of them, none that I have birthed, but 139 that are my pets, the first 139 kids that we found and rescued. The littlest was 3, she's now 14, hugely involved in the trafficking trade and in anti-trafficking work. And the third piece of my dream has been about service delivery to people in really, really remote areas. So our most remote health and education project is 25 days walk from a road. And to give you a sense of what that means with a remote community, the dominant marriage order in that community, right up on the Tibetan border, is polyandry. And that means one woman will marry all the brothers in one family. Enormous privilege to work with these communities. When I first went up there, I was the first Westerner in there in 2 years. So through those 3 streams of work, we've managed to have the privilege of working with thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of amazing people. My life, my dream, has been a dream and a life full of heroes that I get a chance to serve. So to end, I want to actually introduce you to one of those heroes and let you hear it rather than me tell you about it. It's a lady called Sister Christine. I was so afraid of Sister Christine, scared of Sister Christine for 3 years. She thought I was just another little Mzungu girl, another little white girl that was going to come and go. She's one of my greatest icons, and she is the mother lioness that stood by my side, and together we've built out the work in Uganda that I'm so, so proud to have in my life. So let me finish and show you what my dream has resulted in with Christine.
When I started working in Chuoko, we didn't have NICU facilities. Reason why the hospital was just being started and was being built up, and we had only maternity. And by then, the first maternity the maternity had about 8 beds, and we were very few actually, and we couldn't do much. Not until when ISIS came up to the hospital and brought the idea of introducing the NICU ward, and the NICU ward began in 2002. First NICU, we had 2 small rooms, which looked like a sitting room and a bedroom. So the first room, we could admit babies from our maternity here, the babies who had any problems during early neonatal age, like hypoglycemia, hypothermia. We had even the premature babies in that unit. And then the other room, we could nurse babies from the community, and people got to know more about the NICU ward in Chuoko Hospital. They began bringing in their babies, and more babies came in from the community and other health facilities. So when these babies came in, we had the care to give them, and they began improving, and we saved many neonatals. The NICU of today, we moved in 2010 May. That was when it was opened, and it is more spacious by then. We had enough room, but also as time went on, within the 2 years, we began having many babies. Our babies could reach the number 20, 27, 30, and we have enough equipment right now. That was what we actually needed. That was our dream, to have enough space so that we could have more babies. And right now, that's what is going on. We have more babies, and more babies are getting saved. And the new NICU has actually improved the neonatal health. So we are really very grateful for the people who are supporting the NICU. And also, we are happy because we are saving the newborn lives.